Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. Israel's ambassador to India today publicly denounced a film maker from his country who called the Kashmir Files a propaganda, a vulgar movie at the International Film Festival of India in Goa. Ambassador Naor Gilon also apologized to India in an open letter on Twitter, a day after the filmmaker Nadav Lapid, who was heading the festival jury, slammed the movie at the closing ceremony of the festival yesterday. The Kashmir Files, directed by Vivek Agnihotri, revolves around the exodus and killing of Kashmiri Pandits from the Kashmir Valley in 1990. It's been mired in controversy since its release in March, with many calling it a poignant depiction of a tragic period, while critics allege that's loose on facts. But online, this entire controversy boiled into something unforgivable, with many here raising questions on the Holocaust. Should the comments of one man have generated this sort of reaction? Is that all that we have before we throw away that wonderful people-to-people equation that India has with people in Israel? Joining us now, Anupam Kher, who starred in the film The Kashmir Files. Thanks, Mr. Kher, for being with us. Do you believe Nadav Lapid's remarks were designed to offend?
The remarks made by him were, according to me, vulgar, and either vulgar or that of a sick mind or of a planned strategy by the toolkit gang. There is no other reason that he should make that statement. If he did not like a film, first of all, these things are discussed in the jury room, where jury discusses, and then they decide that fine, we will not be making this film as a front runner for any awards or anything like that. So it's not the job of a jury member to criticize a film publicly, but I can understand if he wanted, he could have called it a bad film, badly acted film, badly directed film. But to choose these words and call the film vulgar propaganda reeks of some kind of a, as I said earlier, sick mind, or he had an agenda in his mind, or he was pleasing certain people. It does not even surmount to any logic. Why will he do that? And that also on the last day of the very well organized International Film Festival of India. If he had a problem with it, he could have gone on his platform, on his social media platform, and said that's not my official statement, but my other statement is this. But he chose to do it on stage because he wanted to create a certain kind of situation.
Mr. Kher, at the same time, in terms of the social media reaction here in India, don't you think it's really unfortunate that people online, as a reaction to his comments, have started doing things like questioning the Holocaust?
Well, I don't think that's true, because any people who are suffering because of a situation like Holocaust or genocide, there is no place for criticism for such things. Because it's the biggest human tragedy is Holocaust happening in Germany, and what happened here with Kashmiri Pandits. So maybe we are choosing to sort of look at those responses and not the responses which are in favor and saying that Holocaust and genocide was the worst thing that happened in the history of mankind.
Do you think the views of Lapid were his own, or also the views of the rest of the jury? And I ask this because when he said what he had to say, he indicated that other jury members were of that view as well.
No, the jury has denied it. Jury has denied it that we said something like that. But he wanted to authenticate his statement and included the jury members also. This afternoon, the Consul General of Israel in Mumbai came to my office. He called me up in the morning and he said, I want to come and apologize. I said, there is no need for that, but he still came and he said, this is a one individual sentiment and whole of Israel does not think like that. And I know that because just before I started this interview, I got a message from somebody from Israel and somebody, just 1 second before this, and he said something like that. His name is Moses from Israel, it says, and he says, Anupamji, we are with you. Please do not take Nadav Lapid's words seriously. He's not a known director in Israel. I have never heard of him. I wrote in Hebrew to the Israeli ambassador in India last night, and the ambassador severely reprimanded all the words that Nadav said on stage, Israel is with you. This has happened just 5 seconds before.
And yet, sir, there is something that all of us value so much, the freedom of speech, the freedom of expressing our opinion. And yet, many would suggest that that opinion doesn't mean you can insult a feeling or a thought or an individual or many people. So how do you balance the right to the freedom of speech and opinion and saying something which ends up hurting others?
Freedom of speech is a wonderful thing to have, and we practice it the most in our country. But your freedom of speech should not take away the tragedy of 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus who suffered, and their genocide was kept under wraps for 32 years. And then finally a movie like Kashmir Files came, and people at least got to know the tragedy that they went through, the hurt, the sadness that they went through. And then you come up on stage and you use that platform to talk of that it not happened. It's not your freedom of speech. It's sick mind. You are sick, and that's all I can say.
Sir, final response. Are you satisfied with the response of the Israeli government?
It's not a question of being satisfied. Sometimes when somebody is unwell in the family, or somebody has passed away, people come to show strength. They put their hands around you to comfort you. We are not at that time looking at people, neighbors or something, that am I satisfied with his answer. The fact that they have responded, and the ambassador of Israel has put a very, very strongly worded message on his social media. It's fantastic. And such incidents, in fact, put people together rather than make a divide in their lives.
All right, Mr. K, thanks very much for joining us, sharing those views. We are also joined now by Priyanka Chaturvedi, Rajya Sabha MP, leader of the Shiv Sena, Kavinder Gupta, former Deputy Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Rubon Sapru is the Kashmiri Pandit leader, and Deepika Rajawat of the Congress. Thank you all very much for being with us. Priyanka, do you feel that at one level the outrage that we've seen online and elsewhere isn't commensurate with what, let us say, the government is doing to actually look after the rights of Kashmiri Pandits on the ground who continue to suffer?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This entire outrage that is being directed at some statement made by an Israeli director who was on the invitation of Ministry of Information Broadcasting, attending a government function, make some comments. And unfortunately, the entire onus of the entire issue of Kashmiri Pandits gets sidelined to discuss a movie and how the movie has been spoken about. What is also being the narrative that is trying to be built is that he has mocked the entire exodus, which is not correct, which is factually not true. And the question then arises, what he is speaking about is the artistic liberty that has been taken of a very gruesome episode in India's history, especially for the Kashmiri Pandits, has been reduced to making it a propaganda tool and to profiteer out of it. And the fact remains, and as much as we might hate to confront this, it was a movie while depicting a particular incident in India's history, tragic history, part of tragic Islamist terrorism that has impacted Kashmir and impacted the Kashmiri Pandits who still await justice. The money was made out of the movie. So having said that, where do the Kashmiri Pandits stand today? They continue to protest in Jammu. And I would request that people of this country need to know that they're protesting against a government which is not even paying heed to their request of not being sent to Kashmir on postings because they find themselves constantly targeted. Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji spoke about Kashmir Files inside, outside the parliament at every election rally. But when he was visiting Jammu, he did not even spare time to meet Kashmiri Pandits. Let me also remind you, in my budget speech last year, I had spoken about how provisions were made for Jammu and Kashmir, but there was nothing to include Kashmiri Pandits and their rehabilitation. In terms of rehabilitation, a lot of promises were made in the PM package. What has happened to that? Unfortunately, every single time we speak about Kashmiri Pandits, it reduces to politics of the day, and now, unfortunately, a particular movie, nobody discusses their tragedy and how we must all work towards getting them justice. And that is the tragic truth of this country.
Kavinder Gupta, respond to that.
देखिए, जहां तक सवाल है, ये जो लैपिड में जो भी अपनी टिप्पणी की है वो बड़ी दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, और खास करके इस देश को कुछ लोगों ने मजाक बना के रखा हुआ है। कुछ मिशन के तहत इस प्रकार की बातें होती है। ये मियां खलीफा, ग्रेटा थनबर्ग और ऐसे कुछ लोगों को यूज किया जाता है टाइम टू टाइम, जो कि हिंदुस्तान में अफरा तफरी का माहौल बनाए। ये जो किसान आंदोलन, ये जो ये
नहीं, पर कविंदर जी, ये जो आरोप आप लगा रहे हैं, इसमें आपका प्रूफ क्या है?
देखिए, साफ बात है, अभी कल भी आईएसआई से आया है कि अभी हरियाणा और पंजाब को ये कुछ लोगों को लेकर के वहां पर हंगामा मचाना चाहते हैं।
कविंदर जी, ये इजरायली फिल्म डायरेक्टर ने जो कहा है, आप लोग कह रहे हो, आप कह रहे कि कुछ टूल किट था या शायद उनको कुछ बताया गया था कि आप ऐसे बात कीजिए वहां जाके इंडिया में जाके। तो मैं आपसे सिर्फ ये पूछ रहा हूँ कि इसमें आपका प्रूफ क्या है?
ये बताना चाहता हूँ, पिछले 32 साल से हम लगातार कश्मीर से जुड़े हुए हैं। हम टीवी पे बैठ के खाली बातें नहीं करते हैं, हमने करीब से देखा है। कश्मीर फाइल में वो चीजें अभी दिखाई नहीं गई जो हुआ।
तो आप फिर कविंदर जी, आप प्रियंका चतुर्वेदी जी जो कह रही है उसका जवाब दीजिए। जो प्रियंका कह रही है उसका जवाब दीजिए। उनको कहना है कि अमित शाह जी को और करना चाहिए, अभी भी
घर छोड़ करके क्यों चले आते?
नहीं, कविंदर जी, आप प्लीज प्रियंका चतुर्वेदी ने जो मुद्दे उठाए उसका एक आंसर दीजिए। उन्होंने कहा है कि कश्मीरी पंडित्स के जो प्रोटेस्ट है वो अभी भी चलते हैं, होम मिनिस्टर को और भी करना चाहिए। इसमें आपका क्या आंसर है, क्या जवाब?
ये सरकार को किसी से सर्टिफिकेट लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। लगातार 32 साल से
सर्टिफिकेट नहीं पूछ रहे, ये सिर्फ पूछ रहे कि आप लोगों को और शायद करना चाहिए था।
देखो, 32 साल से जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी लगातार उनके लिए चिंता करती है। अगर कांग्रेस के लोगों ने धारा 370 उस वक्त ये गलतियां ना की होती तो 6 लाख हिंदू कश्मीर से इधर ना आया होता। आज जो भी कोई लोग इस प्रकार की बातें करते हैं, उनको ये पता होना चाहिए कि कश्मीर की तबाही का कारण कौन रहे हैं। 567 रियासतों को जब सरदार पटेल ने मिलाया, एक रियासत का फैसला करने के लिए नेहरू जी ने अपना जो किया, तभी से इस प्रकार की चली आ रही है।
प्रियंका, डज दैट आंसर योर क्वेश्चन or the issues
No,
you
it
raised?
absolutely did not. It absolutely did not. And I think that is where we are fundamentally failing to address the Kashmiri Pandits' cause. Unfortunately, nobody wants to address that because many don't have answers to it. A lot of lofty promises were made post 2014, during 2014, after Article 370 removal. But the tragic truth is that if anyone was to visit the Jagti camp, they would get their answers. If anyone would go to the Kashmiri Pandit homes in Jammu, they would get their answers. If anyone would want to really understand what they're going through, you would get it once you visit them in their own areas and understand what they go through every single day. So it is very nice and fancy for everybody to react and outrage about what is happening and what is being spoken on the basis of a movie. It is extremely unfortunate that outrage is being created to divert attention from the issue of not really being able to do enough for the Kashmiri Pandits and their cause.
Rubon Chapru, as a Kashmiri Pandit leader, do you feel offended by what this man had to say, or do you believe that he has every right to express his views?
Being a Kashmiri Pandit, do you hear me, sir?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Being a Kashmiri Pandit and living in exile, I wholeheartedly support the Kashmir File movie and the filmmaker who has made such a wonderful picture, which has really reflected the pain, agony of the Kashmiri Pandits and atrocities committed on the community. This is on the one side of this. On the other side, I, as a Kashmiri Pandit, strongly condemn the statement made by the jury during the film festival. It is an irresponsible statement, inappropriate statement, which has widely been condemned by the Kashmiri Pandits, and also it has hurt the sentiments and emotions of the Kashmiri Pandits, because there was no need to issue such a statement at this time when Kashmiri Pandits are facing hardships. The jury must know exactly the pain and agony of the Kashmiri Pandits.
So, just so that we are sure, the jury members have denied that they were part of this. This was just by the head of the jury.
Oh, it is actually the program was organized by the government of India, and we are hopeful that government of India issue a statement regarding this, and they will.
I think the
ask
Israeli
jury
ambassador
to
has
tender-
already done that. I'm not sure anything further would necessarily come from the government.
It is my.
But
It is my also.
Aran
appeal
Lev,
to go-
how do you actually interpret this entire situation? On the one hand, you are part of a liberal democratic nation where the freedom of speech is valued, right? And on the other hand, you've got, you've seen what the situation over here was, where one of your nationals came to our country, a democracy, said what he had to say, and then got shouted down or is being shouted down. So how do you balance our values versus, what was actually said?
Either the jury was unaware of the.
1 second, sir. Aran Lev, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I'm honored to be here, and I'm happy that more Indians will know that we, most Israelis, think that what Nadav Lapid did was very shameful. And I think what is shameful is not what he thinks. He has the right to think whatever he wants about Israel, about India, about Kashmir. The shameful thing is that he was a chairperson of a jury. It was not a panel. It was not that he said what he could say, and after this, for instance, Pallavi Joshi could answer him. He misused his power. It was a cynical abuse of power by the chairman, and I'm not even sure that the other people among the jury were part of the statement. When I heard him, I got the impression that they are part of the statements, but today, after I read the news, I saw that it was like his sole opinion. So I don't think it has anything to do with the expression of views or about liberalism. He has the right to say whatever he wants, as long as he gives the right to the other side to give some kind of, to refute what he says. But he was on the podium, and the Kashmir file director was sitting among other people, and he could only listen, he could not answer. So I don't see even what is the question. What he did was, it was terrible what he did.
Okay, fair enough. Deepika, what's happened in the last couple of hours is that there's a interview which has been played out by the Haaretz of this director and Nadav Lapid, and while some of his remarks point to a clear political line of thinking, and what he says is Netanyahu has made anti-liberal alliances all over the world, including with the Modi regime, based apart from arms deals on an ethno-nationalist view that is often also religious and anti-Muslim, right? But the liberal side, even when still in power, is afraid to do the same. So this is how he operates. This is what his beliefs are. Is he not essentially somebody who comes into India with a certain political perspective, which he's then told the entire world at this jury meet?
Exactly. Exactly. This is exactly the point.
Yeah, just one sec. I want to, Aran, 1 sec. Deepika, go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, Vishnu, see what the comment has been made. See, before you today, Deepika is also a Kashmiri Pandit, right? So if it is to talk about the Kashmiri Pandits, or if it is to talk about the Kashmir files, I as a Kashmiri Pandit feel sometimes that our pain is being sold, our pain is being exploited, right? And there is no permanent solution. There is no permanent solution, right? BJP, they're in power since 2014, making promises, saying that we are there to rehabilitate Kashmiri Pandits, but actually not doing for the rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits, and on the other hand, promoting Kashmir files, which I also see as a propaganda film, is something which is very disturbing.
I find it absolutely disturbing. All right, well, I spoke a little. Yes, go ahead, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add, because I think there was a double talk. There are the things that Nadav Lapid said in English in India, and there are the things that he said in Hebrew for the Hebrew press in Israel. When he spoke to the Israeli press, it was crystal clear that whatever he did in India was not for the Indian audience. The hidden agenda was the Israeli film industry. He is very much afraid that what happened with the Kashmir files will happen in Israel, and we will have also some kind of right-wing films in Israel about the Palestinian issue. So in a way, the open agenda was in Goa, but the hidden agenda was about Israel and about his relationship with the right-wing coalition now in Israel, unfortunately.
Priyanka, I think perhaps the most unfortunate part of this entire episode was some of the reactions which we've seen online, where people have started questioning they started questioning the Holocaust. They've started questioning films like Schindler's List, asking, "Oh, did that ever happen? Is that actually true?" That's just sick. I mean, it's absurd to ascribe the views of one person onto an entire community, onto an entire nation.
And also comparing a movie which may have been made with a certain intent, to entire Holocaust.
Right,
that I think is extremely problematic. That there is everybody's been talking about Schindler's List. Schindler's List has also faced a lot of criticism in various quarters. But have you seen this kind of a reaction where today Israel, it is so unfortunate to hear one of the spokespersons, where Israel is a country which I also totally love, is now coming on television channels, on Indian television channels, and fighting amongst each other. I think that is unfortunate. This is what a movie has done, and there is a lot more to fight for beyond a movie. So there's a movie which perhaps was loved by thousands, lakhs, millions. It will not stop, one person's comment will not stop our friendship with Israel or love for Israel. But what it has done is shown the deep schisms that prevail in every society, but now it has gone on an international platform. That I think is unfortunate, with the ambassador's statements, with the Consul General's statements, which could have totally been avoided, but perhaps for whatever reason have been taken into account. But making this about Holocaust, etc., I think it's extremely saddening and shameful, and going to another extreme to prove your point.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. I also reached out a little while earlier on this evening to Sudipto Sen. He is a jury member at IFFI Goa 2022. Now, it's important what his views are, because it was stated by the Israeli director that the views of the entire jury were unanimous as far as this film were concerned, that they all believed it was vulgar. Is that the case? Here's what Mr. Sen said. Mr. Sen, in his remarks, Nadav Lapid seemed to suggest that other members of the jury, which would include you, also felt that there were problems with the film, that it was a propaganda film. Do you share this view?
No. Vishnu, you have to understand, IFFI is an international film festival, and it was the 53rd edition of it. And all the international film festival in the world, starting from Cannes to Berlin to Toronto to Karlovy Vary, Venice, they have a standard practice that we are given 20 to 25 films. In this case, today, in this edition of IFFI, we had 22 films for international jury to select the best film, best director, best actor, best actress, special jury award, and the best debut director. So 6 films to be awarded. So out of 22 films, and we had 5 juries where now Nadav was the chairman of the jury board. There is a Pascal. Pascal is a filmmaker, very veteran filmmaker from France. There was a Xavier, another veteran filmmaker from
but
Spain.
Sir, you aren't answering my comment. I'm just trying my question. I don't want to know about the order of what happened. He's made a very direct statement saying that other jurists felt they had problems.
None of the jury, I can take the responsibility to say none of the jury agreed on.
It's distruthful. It's dishonest. That's what you're trying to say.
It is. Nadav was not supposed to say anything about the film which is not been awarded. We have awarded only 5 films with 6 awards. It is the standard practice that the films which were not been awarded, none of the jury board member was supposed to speak about the films.
So he spoke out of turn. Would that be fair? That he
Absolutely,
spoke out of turn?
it was out of the turn, and we are being hurt. You like a film or you dislike a film, but when you are a jury, you should be impartial about your own personal opinion.
All right.
Even this festival, there was a film by one of the world masters, the living legend, Christoph Janussi. We could not award his film also. So you can imagine it was a very difficult fight.